Moving on to our next story, the white paper on Kerala finances tabled in the state's legislative assembly, in fact, on Thursday, painted a very grim picture of the state's fiscal health. The paper stated that the new United Democratic Front government inherited a severe financial crisis marked by mounting debt, rising liabilities, and persistent treasury stress. The major findings in the financial report reveals that Kerala's total public debt has reached 5.07 lakh crore rupees, while nearly 77% of the state's revenue is being spent on committed expenditures such as salaries, pensions, and interest payments, leaving limited fiscal space for developmental activities. The report noted that capital expenditure on development remains among the lowest in the country. It said Kerala's capital expenditure stands at just 1.3% of the gross state domestic product, that's the GSDP, one of the lowest among Indian states, despite the state running one of the highest fiscal deficit. It further highlighted that the severity of the treasury crisis, stating that the state relied on ways and means advances for 262 days in 2025 and remained in overdraft for 84 days during the year. Chief Minister V.D. Satishan has said his government has also inherited pending liabilities amounting to 48,733 crore rupees, including dearness allowances and dearness relief arrears payable to government employees and pensioners. LOP and former Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan alleged that the state had bypassed norms while presenting the white paper. Despite highlighting the challenges, the report said that Kerala's financial difficulties can be addressed through sustained efforts to attract private investment, promote industrial growth, generate employment, and expand infrastructure development. The report stressed that the state's long-term development objectives cannot be achieved without ensuring fiscal discipline, transparency, and sustainable financial management. And I'm being joined by Nirmal Abraham, who's a columnist and a political analyst. Thank you very much, Nirmal, for joining us. Nirmal, the first question, politics or financial distress?
Financial distress, of course. I mean, we've been facing this for a very long time. Whether it's the left or the right, whichever party gets in Kerala has faced the same issue. But the problem for the UDF, though, is that they came into power offering a few non-negotiable promises, which were the Indira guarantees, which included 1,000 rupees stipends, 3,000 rupees social security pensions, as well as 25 lakh worth of free health insurance for each household annually. So all of these are sweeping promises. They may have to either walk back, which won't be a pretty sight, or roll out these promises later on if things get better. That's the biggest challenge lying ahead of Satishan. And the other challenge is, I mean, now that he's presented this, the biggest challenge is how does he increase the revenue or how does he reduce the spending? If he were to increase the revenue, the only options are increasing taxes and fees on public facilities. But the problem is the LDF government across the last 3-4 years have already increased many of these. Land taxes were increased by 50%. Motor vehicle tax on older vehicles, more than 15 years have been increased by 50%. Stamp duty was significantly increased. Court fees were significantly increased. There was a social security cess on petrol, diesel, as well as liquor. Electricity duty was increased. So where does he actually find room for increasing revenue? That's question number one. The second problem that the governments across the last 25 years have been facing is the collection of tax. I mean, whether it's GST leakage, tax leakage, these are issues that we face. And I think of late, the state GST department has introduced an audit and intelligence wing, but then unfortunately for the last 2 years, they have been understaffed. And digitization is only taking baby steps at the moment, unfortunately, in these departments. So they will have to find ways to increase revenue. The one thing I'm sure the UDF government will do, judging from what they have done in the last 2-3 weeks, is that they will hopefully reduce wasteful spending like the last government did. For example, unnecessary construction, renovation, expansion of administrative facilities, or buying of new cars or foreign trips. All of these things may be reduced from their end. That's the least that they can do. But otherwise, it's going to be a real challenge for Satish.
Nirmal, it's interesting in two ways. One, the left government's response, Pinarayi Vijayan's response, very interesting to say that they have bypassed certain rules in bringing out this white paper. Now, that's very interesting because Pinarayi Vijayan or the other earlier left government could have actually just joined the bandwagon, saying that they have raised this with the centre and the finance ministry, Nirmala Sitharaman, many times in the past, and that they have gone to her as well as met the Prime Minister over the finances and the budget concerns over Kerala. But that's not really the stand that they have taken while combating the allegations that seem to have emerged from the white paper. That being one part of it. While you're talking about the rollback, that's going to be a big concern because, Karnataka, the Congress in Karnataka faced quite a bit of backlash when they had to roll back on their promises, the 7 guarantees initially that they came up with.
Yes, I think already when you talk about these Indira guarantees, the first one was KSRT, free KSRTC rights for women. That has already been modified. When it was made, it was a sweeping statement. All women across the state that now has been reduced, as far as I understand, is that it has been reduced to ordinary buses alone, which usually travel only locally and doesn't cost as much. So I don't know how people will take that in the first place. Second, about senior citizens, we don't know what scheme they're going to come up with. The other three they haven't touched at all up until now. So whatever happens, whether it's increasing the spending or it's increasing the taxes or reducing the spending, it will come up as, or it will invite criticism from the opposition, which in turn will turn the people against the government gradually. But I think the good thing, though, is that VD Satish is articulate enough to articulate and open enough to tell the people what exactly it is. And we know that even the 16th Finance Commission, when it released the new devolution share, it still remains 41%. Kerala has a slight improvement of share from 1.925 to 2.382, but then that's not significant considering that we will not get state-specific grants from now on. So it is going to be challenging for Kerala, especially because, when you look at the devolution percentages, we have, the calculation itself is inherently biased against Kerala because this is how the calculation goes. The higher the population, the more the spending. The higher
Right.
the size of the state, the more the spending. Unfortunately, Kerala is a small state with a lower population, so we won't get as much money from the center as their share of taxes. So that's one thing. And two, this the last 10 years, who actually was in charge in the last 10 years, it was the left government. So I think VD Sudeshan would have the leverage to explain, but then the problem is, will he roll out all the guarantees on time?